The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, is one of the most visually ambitious, gorgeous, breathtaking, wondrous pieces of television I have ever seen in my entire life. You want to see Jeff Bezos' $1 billion on screen in Middle-earth? Well, you've got it. And every single cent of that $1 billion is there to be seen in all its glory, all its expensive, grand epicness. But what about the story and the plot and the characters? Mixed. On one hand, we have Galadriel and her epic, grand, awesome adventure, or a really interesting character going on this really interesting journey, and everything so far is so awesome. Elrond took a little bit for me to warm up to him, but I'm really enjoying his character now. I feel like he's someone I'm going to really enjoy in this series. Everyone else? Oh dear. Underwhelming and disappointing. That first 20 minutes. The ice, the snow, the Galadriel, it was good. I was like, oh my god, why did I think this show was going to be bad? Then the rest of the episodes played out. It was like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Lord of the Rings was the film that made me fall in love with cinema and films and just storytelling in general. Like, I just love it so much. The Fellowship of the Ring is still my favorite movie. It's easily my favorite trilogy. I just adore it so much. And so regardless of how good it is, it's never going to capture that wonder and excitement and amazement that I have for those films that I found when I watched as a kid, when I rewatch it now as an adult. So I've just been very kind of trepidatious about the whole thing. That being said, the first 20 minutes of this absolutely blew me away. I was so overwhelmed. Like, I was like, oh, what does $1 billion look like on screen? Oh, this absolute wonder, this marvel, this gorgeous, wonderful, just epic, grand, just the scope was so big. Everything was so beautiful. Every single shot was just like, mwah, oh, just like gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And then the plot started to happen. So what's the story of Rings of Power? Pretty much the same as Lord of the Rings. Maybe Sauron's back, in brackets, no seriously, he's back. The other bracket again, why don't you believe that he's back? He's actually totally back. So it's not even like the rise of Sauron, it's just like he was here for a bit, he was very menacing, stabby horn helmet, and he's back. He was gone for a bit, he hid in the corner, but now he's back. And he wants to smash you all and kill you all, because he's evil. Okay. This prequel of Lord of the Rings, it's doing so much, but so much of it makes me kind of reflect and look back on Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, my favorite movies ever, and not just kind of be just so thankful that they panned out and worked out the way they did, and that they are so successful, and they are so cleverly and beautifully crafted, but they've just got heart, and they've got emotion, and they've got dialogue and characters and moments that just feel so human and beautiful and perfect. Whereas in this show, so much of the dialogue, I'm just kind of like, okay, and just so much around is just so breathtaking. Every time we see a city, I've never seen such beautifully rendered CGI cities. Oh, there's moments where we go into that dwarven cavern, it just looks so good. And then the scene is them with hammers smashing rocks for a bit of a laugh thingy going on. And the dialogue is all just a bit kind of like, it's just very mixed. Like, lines here and there are really interesting and fun, but overall, I just found it like really kind of underwhelming in like the writing department, really underwhelming kind of the characterization of its main characters. Like, we've kind of essentially got 3 or 4 kind of different groups of main characters, and except for Galadriel and Elrond, I found everyone else just like so boring and just like uncharismatic, uninteresting, and also kind of like, this is the biggest sin of all for a show this grand, epic, and beautiful. Boring. Some of them are just downright boring. Instead of the impossibly charming and quaint and cute and fun and just homely, earthy feel of the Hobbits and Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, we get these dirty, sticks in their hair, Irish gypsy hobbits, and just the whole vibe is just really weird. I feel like there's moments of trying to like humor sprinkled throughout these, and I feel like these are meant to be our kind of, our light characters, the hobbits. Like, there's kind of, this is where we can all relate to these characters. They're like the most human of everyone. It was when they appeared, like, we get a Galadriel epic ice journey trying to find Sauron, and her team is not like vibing with her, and they're like, we can't go any further, we can't go into the darkness of the doom, and she's like, I will do anything to find Sauron, he killed my brother. And everything is singing. The show is just like on fire. And at that point, I'm like, this will be the single greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then the Hobbits kick in. And the Hobbits are my favorite part of Lord of the Rings. Like, the Shire, as a kid, was where I wanted to live. Like, going to see, like, I went to New Zealand and I'm like, I forced Mum to take us to Hobbiton. And I'm like running around giddy with my camera, just screaming like a little schoolgirl. Like, like a kid in a candy shop, but a big, stupid nerd in Hobbiton was what I was. And I just feel like all that charm and beauty and just, I literally can't even, there's just too many words to describe how perfect Hobbiton and the Shire and the Hobbits are. And all of that I feel like is abandoned for this really different take on them, and which is fine. You can have a different take on everyone. It's like, I don't want it to be a carbon copy. Like, you know, even the orcs have a slightly different design, even though they look pretty similar, which I really, really like. Whereas these Hobbits are just like, I don't know what's going on with them, man. Like, I just found them so boring. And then at the end of the episode, when big meteor wizard man rocks up, all I kept thinking is, if this is young, sexy Gandalf, I'm going to lose my mind. And they haven't revealed it yet, but, I mean, I don't know about timelines and stuff. I haven't actually read the books or anything, but it just feels like a very prequel thing to be like, young, sexy Dumbledore? Wait, have I been saying Dumbledore or Gandalf? But whatever, I'm not going back. I meant Gandalf. You all know who I meant. I'm getting confused because, you know, the Harry Potter prequels, they gave us young, sexy Dumbledore. But at least in that, when he's young, sexy Dumbledore, he's sexy and young. This young, sexy Gandalf, not that sexy. I want young, sexy Gandalf. If we're getting Gandalf, I want him to be young and sexy. I want him to have a short, trimmed beard. I want him to be cool. Maybe some slicked back hair. Maybe even Peaky Blinders haircut, but shaved on the sides, you know? Young, hip Gandalf. That's the Gandalf I want. It's hard to describe exactly what isn't working for me for like these hobbits, and it isn't just that they're a traveling rove of gypsy hobbits and the design is slightly changed a little bit or whatever. I just think there's something so kind of pure and earthly and homey and just kind of like, I feel like so warm and at home with our kind of Lord of the Rings hobbits. I think just like that whole gardening vibe, they're just drinking beers, smoking pipe weed, and just they have this vibe and attitude towards them that I found so charming and irresistible and so pure. And that's the whole thing. Hobbits are like more pure than like man or dwarves or elves. Like, they've got all their issues, but the hobbits, they're simple folk and they know what's up and they're just super cool. And these hobbits just didn't have that vibe. It's such an untangible thing as well, like a vibe. But I think it is that. Like, I just see them and I don't go, oh, I want to grow up to be a traveling gypsy hobbit. No, I want to go to the Shire. Take me to the Shire. Someone please take me back to the Shire. This grass, green fields and houses in holes. It's probably just the heavy drinking and smoking that I really vibed with there. I'm not a gardener. I don't even really like being outside. It's cold and there are no screens out there. Or if there are a screen, the sun's reflecting and I can't see properly, and it's annoying. Thanks so much for clicking on my stupid face. If you're bloody liking this review or whatever this is, bloody like, subscribe, comment, notification bells, you know, all those YouTubey thingies. And yes, comment below, because I'm very curious what people think of this show. Like, is this all big gays? Or are we all like, ooh, all big nays? Just all mixed, nuanced. So our third group of main characters is an elf warrior guard thing. I don't know, like an army guy who's just like looking over stuff. I don't know, I didn't really understand. I think they're there from the war and now he's just looking over. He's like, I'm the man with the bow. Essentially just like a copper, like a policeman who just wanders into town. He's like, is everything good? I heard maybe stuff's not so good. And everyone in town's like, hey, don't speak to the cops. Snitches get stitches, all that stuff. And then in the human department, we get lady, blue dress lady. I didn't catch her name. I don't know. Elf cop and blue dress woman are sexually interested in each other, I think. I don't know. I've never seen less sexual chemistry between two people before. If I'm watching a romantic scene that's meant to be all sexy and romantic and, you know, ooh, they love each other, but, you know, different worlds and stuff, like, but they want to be together, but, you know, their societies say, don't be together, and, you know, all that stuff, and racism, and, you know, all that classic Lord of the Rings stuff where everyone's racist to every other race and all that stuff. But if you're doing that, I want a bit of like sexual chemistry. I want to be like, I can't wait for them to bone. I'm so excited to see these sexy people bone. You know, screw their families and, you know, races and stuff. I want them to bone. It's going to be hot and awesome and cool. Whereas in this, it's just like, he's just stilted. emotionless. Like, I understand that he's kind of meant to be kind of reserved and, you know, he's hiding his emotions and he's that kind of character. Like, he's not all like, woohoo, I'm an elf cop bowman thingy. You know, so he's doing that thing, but I don't find that he's nailing it. I feel like he's very stilted and stunted and just emotionally nothing. And I couldn't really get anything from him, but it wasn't like, oh, look how reserved he is. Look at how kind of, you know, like hiding his emotions. He's so like kind of, you know, caged in his own cage or something. I don't know. I just didn't think he was nailing what he was trying to do. And then Blue Dress Lady just looks like she's gonna cry. Like every time he's talking to her, she's just like, oh. And the dialogue with them, just everything about their little romance thingy going on, I just thought was really, really bad. It just didn't really work for me, and I found that really disappointing, because what is a Lord of the Rings story without some hobbits, without a Sauron, without, you know, elves being all like, I live for 1 billion years, oh, it's only been 20 years, that's a blink of the eye for an elf, you know, and all that stuff, but also two different races being like, actually, maybe I love you, and maybe you love me. But everyone's racist in this universe, so it can't be. That's a classic Lord of the Rings thingy. And if I'm comparing it to The Hobbit, which unfortunately I'm just going to keep doing every time I think about this show, just because it's kind of impossible for the type of prequel, but we have Killy, the dwarf in The Hobbit that looks like the sexy man, and Kate from Lost as the elf, and their sexual chemistry is way better. That's like not a good element to those movies. Like, I love Kate, I love that she's in them, I love that she gets to do some elf bowing archery things, but that whole relationship, almost love triangle with Legolas or whatever was going on, at least they had sexual chemistry. At least when they were kind of doing little quips and, you know, sexy talk or whatever, I was like, at least I buy these two people. At least I can imagine them having sex and it not being weird, gross, and stilted nothingness. This is just very, I guess the key word would be emotionless, which I think for a romantic kind of subplot, you gotta have some emotion, right? I did really enjoy, though, that Blue Dress Lady's son gets the sword that looks like a Morgul blade, maybe, or whatever. I don't know, a Sauron artifact of some kind of evilness or whatever, and he gets himself cut into it, and then the blood seeps up into the sword, and the sword's all like, I'm on fire now and growing and stuff, and I'm like, ooh, cool CGI fire sword. I don't know. I just love that kind of high fantasy concept stuff. I just love a fantasy thing. I love a magical sword doing a magical thing, and I was all about that, and hopefully that kid turns into a little demon boy, and he's running around stabbing people with his little demon sword. I can't wait for it. It's awesome. Speaking of awesome, the orc that comes into the house, and they have like a bit of a punchy punch, and they strangle it and chops its head off. Holy moly, did that orc look good. Like, just the design of the orcs looks so cool. A lot of the budget feels like it's going into these monster designs, these creature designs. All of them are impossibly cool. Like, I have nothing clever or insightful to say other than just like, big sea monster running about, and they're like, is that a ship? It looks like ours. Oh my god, it's a sea beast! And the sea beast is smashing and the camera's going in and out of the water, and you just see it. I just love it. I loved it. Galadriel really got all that cool stuff. Like when they're doing that first bit where they're running through the frosty ice mountains of doom and whatever, trying to find Sauron in the big quest of, we shouldn't be going this way, Galadriel. And Galadriel's like, but we should. Please, I'm sad about my brother. Let's go this way. And the big snow troll comes out, and he's all like, and she's like smashing people, throwing everyone everywhere. She runs up the sword because elves are all light and stuff, and she just does some flips and kicks and stabby stabs. I love it. I love it more than anything. It was so cool. Like just in seeing them climb up the ice thing. It reminded me of in Game of Thrones when they're climbing the wall, but just like that, like on crack times 100,000. It was just like, oh boy, it's exciting to see what $1 billion can do when you want to build a big ice wall and have a bunch of elves climb up it. It looks good. I'm glad Jeff Bezos has $1 billion to spare on this show. Just madness to me. It's so much money. I wish I had $1 billion to throw at a show. It would be Game of Thrones. We'd be redoing season 7 and 8 in Game of Thrones. It's just that's just what's happening. It's just, I gotta stop thinking about Game of Thrones. God damn it, House of Dragon. Just bringing up old past. Oh, I feel sick now. Oh. Generally speaking, all of Galadriel's stuff I found exceptionally entertaining. I really like the character. I really like her characterization of being kind of like bloodthirsty and very driven and very she's isolating herself from everyone due to this mission that she has to complete due to the loss of her brother and just that war-torn just life she's led of just battle and just. I really, really like this character they're going for. But the one moment that I was kind of like, oh, sometimes when you don't know exactly everything, and then like when you fully flesh it out, it suddenly becomes a bit like, okay, that's not how I kind of imagined it happening. And it's when they're going to the heavens or whatever, the elven heavens, where Frodo goes at the end, and they're all sitting there on the boat, they're just holding their swords, the boat's magically going, and no one's doing like that Viking oar thing where they're like, oh, we're gonna get there. They're just like holding their swords. And it's just all a bit kind of like, it feels like I was watching like a cult about to commit suicide. Like it was really, really weird. Like the people with the cloths over their heads take the swords away and it's all just a bit kind of, ooh. And then the epic music and there's like, oh, you know, all that sing-songing. But then they're singing and it's like, wait, is this diegetic or non-diegetic? Like, what? Like, is that... what? I don't know. I just found that really weird. Then the light becomes so powerful and the boat's getting sucked up. And then she jumps into the water. It disappears. Magic, whatever. Okay, that's fine, I guess. But then she's like, I guess I'll just swim back. How long were they in the boat for? That's a magical boat just going. Like, I don't know. I was just like, there is no way she gets back. Aren't they in the middle of nowhere? She's going to drown. And then suddenly she's in bloody war-torn boat land and there's like ships everywhere and there's like potential pirates, there's big sea monsters, and I'm like, I just don't feel like we're in the same oceany area. Did she like do freestyle swimming for like days? I know that elves can't dive, but like they have limited endurance, right? Or can she just swim for days? I don't know. It was just a baffling moment, and like the start of the second episode is her just swimming and I couldn't stop laughing. My brain just doesn't commute. It just seems like she jumped off. She's like, I'm going to go to heaven, or I can commit suicide into the ocean and drown in here. Just a baffling sequence of events. But everything else with Galadriel, boat, sea monster, fighty, ice stuff, all the ice stuff at the start. I really can't stress how excited and impressed I was by that whole ice sequence, that whole journey through the ice. It just... oh, it's everything I love to see in just like these big landscapes, these things we can never see in real life. Just so gorgeous, so amazing. Like, everything was so good. And I really feel like since that point, I felt like for the rest of the show, I was like chasing that high. I was like, oh, I just want to get back to that ice journey into yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it was as good after that. It just felt a bit kind of like, oh, we've just got hobbits running about, eating berries. Young, sexy Gandalf that's not that sexy and maybe isn't Gandalf. And the most unappealing romantic thing ever. And the whole story appears to just be, oh, Sauron's back. That was Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't know, you're not going to do something new and different? Like, this is a prequel series set so long ago. Like, what's going to be different? What's going to be new, exciting, and fresh? The same plot as Lord of the Rings, except without any of the characters that are iconic that you love and are really, really good, just straight off the bat. Just straight off the bat, they're all so exceptional, so entertaining, and so different. And in this, it's just like, we've got some dwarves, and he's hitting the hammer. Actually, you know what? The dwarf guy, he grew on me. He grew on me. Like at that dinner table scene, he had that speech where he's like, 20 years is nothing for you, but for me, it's a lifetime! And I'm like, oh, actually, that actually hits home. That was like one of the most emotional moments of the whole thing. It was a bit of fun, but it just felt a bit kind of like, I don't know, like a dream. Like I was watching, being like, this is new Lord of the Rings. And we've got dwarves like hitting rocks, being like, I beat you. Ha 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 ha. I don't know. I'm fascinated to see where this show's going to go. I'm going to watch it as soon as it comes out every week, because I love a little Lord of the Rings. I love a Hobbit, but yeah, I was not excited, then I got so excited, then that excitement slowly like drained out of me a little bit. But by God, does it look good. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen just visually. It's just like, that was me. And I swear I just like laughed out loud and said, oh my God, this looks so good. Like 10 times.